Israeli leader Benjamin Netanyahu has arrived in Florida to meet with President Trump at his Mar-a-Lago beach club.
Right now, as you're watching this video, Benjamin Netanyahu is sitting across from Donald Trump at Mar-a-Lago in Florida. The cameras are rolling. The handshakes look friendly. And every major news network is calling this a routine diplomatic meeting between two old allies. But behind closed doors, something very different is happening. Something nobody in the mainstream media wants to talk about. Because here's what they're not telling you. Netanyahu didn't fly to Florida to meet with Trump. He flew to Florida to go around Trump's own team, to bypass every single advisor who has turned against him, to make one last desperate appeal directly to the only man in Washington who might still listen. And the reason he's desperate, because according to leaked conversations from inside the White House, Netanyahu has lost the support of almost everyone in Trump's inner circle. Jared Kushner, Steve Witkoff, J.D. Vance, Susie Wiles, all of them are, in their own words, furious with him. One senior official told reporters, and I quote, "Steve and Jared are pissed by Israeli inflexibility around several Gaza-related issues." Another said the White House message to Netanyahu was crystal clear. If you want to ruin your reputation and show that you don't abide by agreements, be our guest. But we won't allow you to ruin President Trump's reputation after he brokered the deal in Gaza. Let that sink in for a moment. Trump's own son-in-law, his hand-picked Middle East envoy, his vice president, they're not just frustrated. They're actively working against the Israeli prime minister's agenda. And Netanyahu knows it. So what exactly caused this split? How did the man Trump once called Israel's greatest friend end up alienating the entire administration? The answer goes back to October, when Trump brokered what he called the most important peace deal of his presidency, a 20-point framework to end the Gaza war, establish an international peacekeeping force, and rebuild the territory under a new Palestinian government. Netanyahu agreed to the deal publicly. He shook hands. He smiled for the cameras. But behind the scenes, he immediately started treating Trump's framework as what one Israeli official called a working document. In other words, a suggestion, not a commitment. And then the violation started, according to the latest count. Israel has violated the ceasefire agreement more than 700 times in less than 3 months. 700? That's not a peace deal. That's a peace deal on paper, while the bombs keep falling. In one incident that particularly enraged the White House, Israeli forces struck a school shelter in Gaza City, while displaced Palestinian families were gathered there for a wedding. 6 people were killed. The Trump administration wasn't even consulted beforehand. A few days later, Israel assassinated a senior Hamas commander named Reed Saad. Again, without notifying Washington, when the White House found out, they sent what officials described as a stern private message to Netanyahu, calling it a clear violation of Trump's ceasefire. But here's where it gets really interesting. One White House official told Axios, and this quote is remarkable, "Sometimes we feel the IDF commanders on the ground are just trigger-happy." Think about that. A senior member of Donald Trump's administration publicly accusing the Israeli military of being This isn't coming from some progressive Democrat. This is coming from inside Trump's own team. And the frustration doesn't stop at Gaza, it extends to Syria, where Israel has been conducting almost daily airstrikes, despite American objections. It extends to Lebanon, where Israel has bombed targets in violation of a separate U.S.-brokered ceasefire, killing at least 127 civilians since November, according to the United Nations. And it extends to Iran, where Netanyahu is now pushing for something that terrifies Trump's advisors. Another war, according to NBC News, Netanyahu came to this meeting with a specific ask. He wants Trump to greenlight a new round of military strikes on Iran's ballistic missile facilities. He's prepared to present multiple options, including scenarios where American forces would participate directly. But here's the problem. Trump's base doesn't want another Middle East war. The whole America First movement was built on the idea of staying out of foreign conflicts. And Trump's advisors know that dragging the country into a new confrontation with Iran, right before the 2026 could be politically catastrophic. So Netanyahu is trying a different strategy. He's not trying to convince the advisors anymore. He's given up on them. Instead, he's going directly to Trump, hoping that their personal relationship can override everything else. One Israeli official described the situation perfectly. "It's a crucial meeting," he said. "It is not clear whether Trump is in the same place as Witkoff and Kushner." Bibi is trying to convince a one-man audience. The question is whether Trump will side with him or with his top advisors when it comes to Gaza. A one-man audience. That's what this whole trip comes down to. Netanyahu betting everything on his ability to charm. One person in a room full of people who can't stand him anymore. And just to show you how desperate the situation has become, consider what happened right before Netanyahu left Israel. According to multiple Israeli news outlets, he proposed opening the Rafah border crossing in both directions as a goodwill gesture for Trump. This would have allowed Palestinians to actually enter Gaza, not just leave. It would have been a significant humanitarian concession. But then his own coalition partners killed the idea. Finance Minister Bezalel Smotrich and National Security Minister Itamar Ben-Gvir pressured Netanyahu to drop the proposal. So he arrived in Florida with nothing to offer except promises. This is the trap Netanyahu finds himself in. He can't give Trump what he wants because his own government won't let him. But he can't defy Trump either because Israel depends on American support. So he's stuck trying to distract, delay, and hope that his personal bond with the president is enough to buy more time. The question is whether Trump will let him get away with it. Because here's what the mainstream media keeps missing about this story. This isn't just about Netanyahu versus Trump's advisors. This is about something much bigger. It's about whether American foreign policy is actually made by the professionals in the room. Or whether one foreign leader can bypass all of them by appealing directly to the president's ego. The Trump administration has a plan for Gaza. They have a vision for regional peace. They have a strategy to expand the Abraham Accords to include Saudi Arabia, Syria, and Lebanon. And Netanyahu is standing in the way of all of it. One U.S. official put it bluntly. Netanyahu has turned over the last 2 years into a global pariah. He should ask himself why Egyptian President Sisi refuses to meet him, and why, 5 years after the Abraham Accords, he still hasn't been invited to visit the UAE. That's the reality nobody wants to discuss. The Israeli Prime Minister has become so toxic that even countries that signed peace deals with Israel don't want him in their capitals. And Trump's team is starting to realize that their boss's friendship with Netanyahu might be the single biggest obstacle to their entire Middle East strategy. So what happens next? If Trump sides with his advisors, Netanyahu goes home humiliated. His coalition starts to fracture. His political future becomes uncertain. But if Trump sides with Netanyahu, his own team is humiliated. The peace deal stalls. And America might find itself dragged into yet another conflict it never asked for. Either way, someone is going to lose. And right now, at this very moment, that decision is being made in a private room at Mar-a-Lago between two men who both desperately need a win. The media will tell you this meeting is about strengthening the U.S.-Israel alliance. They'll show you the handshakes and the photo ops and the carefully scripted statements. But now you know what's really happening. Now you know about the fight that nobody's talking about. The fight between Netanyahu and the people who are supposed to be his closest allies in Washington. The fight for the ear of one man. The fight that could determine whether the Middle East gets peace or another decade of war. And the outcome of that fight might be decided before this video even finishes. Uploading dot. If you found this breakdown valuable. Make sure to subscribe, because I'll be covering whatever comes out of this meeting as soon as we know more. Drop a comment below telling me whose side you think Trump will take, his advisors or Netanyahu, and share this video with someone who needs to understand what's really happening behind the scenes. The truth is out there. You just have to know where to look. You just have to know where to look.